Oh, go get your fucking chores done. Hey, put on pants first so you can take them out, okay? Hi, welcome back. So, round 3 with these trunks, and this time we're going to do the entry hall one, the one that was on that little scooty table guy that makes awful noises. You wouldn't know about that part, but oh my gosh, it's awful. Anyway, so this one's a little bit different. We're adding some like furniture applique things to them, and we're going to make those ourselves. I have a really cheap and easy way to do that, and it really changes the entire look of the things you put it on. You can put it on anything, honestly. It doesn't have to be a trunk. You can put them on dressers, you can put them on tables, chairs, whatever. Let your imagination run wild. Anyway, so I'm going to show you how I do that, and then I'm going to give you a rundown of the paint job for this guy, and that'll be it for our trunks. Finally, woo! All right, let's get started. I'm going to introduce my super cute husband here. He's going to be my assistant today. If you might recall from the first video we did where I put this table together, I just glued it in place, and that would have been fine if I wasn't going to manhandle it the way I'm about to. But I am going to be lugging it around, so here we go. To make this more stable, we're going to drill pilot holes in each corner first, making sure it goes through both the trunk and the table underneath. Next, we're just going to use some of these screws to screw it together. Pretty straightforward business. Here's a close-up of the screw in case you were curious what kind we were using. Ta-da! All secure and stable. Now, even I can't break it, unless I try. So we're going to make some furniture appliques. Most of these I find in stores are kind of expensive, so here's my alternative. I have these silicone molds that I usually use for resin, but today I'm going to fill them with hot glue. I picked some molds I thought would be pretty for the end design I'm going for. Kind of doing that shabby chic sort of thing, but you know, Mandolized style. I run another business from my upstairs, so I need to make sure everything stays nice and normalish. Anyways, so my technique here is I fill the bottom of the mold first and around the edges. I want to make sure that the outside edges and the bottom, you know, all of the detail is going to be the part that shows up the best. While this is still hot, I'm going to whack it down on the counter a few times to get the air bubbles loose and to make sure everything gets down in those grooves really well. Be quick though, you don't want it to cool off. You'll finish filling it afterwards. I'm going to do the same thing with all the other little shapes that I think will be useful. This particular mold here that looks kind of like beads, I'm filling them one little bead space at a time. I'm going to have to make several of these because these won't just be appliques, these will be a trim that goes all the way around the front. And I'm just using like super cheap hot glue here, and I do recommend using a big glue gun to do this. That way you can get your maximum amount all at once before your glue cools down. Once your glue is cooled, you can just pop them right out. Silicone is pretty magical, hardly anything sticks to it. In fact, as far as I know, nothing actually sticks to it. But here's our applique in the raw form. You're just going to need to pick off any little edges that you don't like, you know, those little strings and stuff that hot glue does. The next step is just to sort of lay out a pattern to kind of get an idea of where you want to glue these down for their permanent spot. And as usual, I'm going to fuss with this for a little bit until I get it just how I like it. Here are those trim parts I was talking about. I want to hide the seam between the table and the trunk with these. That's the main reason I was making them. Once I get everything where I like it, I'm going to start just hot gluing it down. You could do the hot glue and E6000 method here if you want, but I don't plan on this thing a whole lot of roughing up, so I think hot glue alone will be just fine. Do make sure you pick off all those little strings before you get to the painting part. I'm just going to cut off the excess part of the little bead trim that I made to make sure it fits. Hot glue cuts pretty easily, so this little razor knife worked just fine. I decided I wanted a second row of these little bead trim things just because I thought it looked better, more filled out, so I didn't have that raw wood edge, but you know, your table might be different. This is a thrift store find after all. In the end, you just need to go with what you find aesthetically pleasing. There are so many options using this method. Here we are in my garage, and I have some gold and some silver spray paint. And you're going to notice I'm going to do a very splotchy job of painting, and that's on purpose. I'm starting off with the silver, and I'm just going to do random areas in silver. Now we'll speed it up and you can kind of watch my process here so everything makes more sense. And also so you don't have to watch me paint forever. And now I'm going to go in with the gold and I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to cover most of the areas that I didn't get with the silver. This gives me kind of a two-tone look, and I think it looks sort of like aged metal, and I really like the way it turns out. Now I go back and forth between gold and silver a few times here, kind of evening out the paint job. I want them to blend together a little bit. Really, you could stop here, and I love the way it looks with just the metallic paint on it, but it's not the look I was really going for, so we're going to do a few more steps coming up. Since this is a used trunk, I wanted to make sure I seal the inside in some way, and I'm just going to use the gold and silver paint. The gold doesn't show up a whole lot because this is kind of a gold tone wood, but really my main goal, like I said, is to seal it up just in case the cleaning wasn't enough. Who knows what was kept in this thing before I bought it? I want it to not transfer to my items. I just spray paint it liberally with the gold and then give it a little bit of a hit of silver here and there. Please don't judge my garage too harshly. I'm not one of those people that has a really clean, pretty garage. And here's what it looks like after the metallic paint. See what I mean? It's pretty like it is, and I kind of like it like this. But I'm about to wreck it. I've only tried a few brands of chalk paint, and I do not recommend this one. This is the Artist Loft brand, and I got it from Michael's. It's a bit hard to work with. Anyway, I'm going to add some white to this bowl, but first I'm going to have to add some water because it's really thick and there's only a little bit left in the bottom. I was going to water it down anyway, so I guess this is fine. This is the same brand, but it's a kind of light gray color. I think it's called Oyster. And I'm going to add just a little bit of that because I don't want this to be a stark white paint. I want it to have a little bit of an aged look to it. Then you just mix it together and kind of randomly slap it on. You don't want to go too thick. You want a fairly light coat. I'm going to work in sections here, just doing a little bit at a time. Before all this paint has a chance to dry, I'm going to come over it with a wet cloth and take away a lot of it. Not only does this kind of help smooth out the brush strokes, but it helps bring out the detail of the higher points of whatever you're painting. It's kind of one of those chalk paint magic tricks, I guess. I'm going to do this to the entire trunk. And here it is, all sped up. I'm also going to do the base at the very end. Want everything to match after all. I got a little bit rough with this piece and knocked it off, but I'm just gonna hot glue it right back on. And that seemed to work just fine. Here it is, all completed, my fantastic entry hall table. It turned out really perfect. It has that sort of romantic look to it that I was going for. Also, it was pretty cheap and pretty easy, which, if you guys know anything about me by now, that's like my jam. God, I sound like an idiot sometimes, huh? I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Be sure you check out the other videos for how I put these tables together and how I made the other trunk table. Make sure you like and subscribe and follow all of my junk. See you guys next weekend.